A small-town weatherman made a joke on live TV that seemed impossible. If Elvis Presley actually comes to our town, it'll snow in July. That night, something happened that no meteorologist could explain. And what Elvis did when he heard about it left everyone speechless. It was July 12th, 1977, and Elvis was 2 weeks away from what would become his final concert tour. Nobody knew it would be his last, not his band, not his crew, not Elvis himself. He was scheduled to perform in Springfield, Illinois, a small city that rarely got major entertainment acts. The local news stations had been promoting the concert for weeks, treating it like the biggest event in the town's history. Tom Weatherly was the evening weatherman for WICS-TV, the local NBC affiliate. He'd been forecasting weather in Springfield for 15 years, and he was known for his corny jokes and folksy charm. The kind of weatherman who made dad jokes about cold fronts and gave vegetables names during his gardening segments. On the evening of July 12th, Tom was doing his usual 6 p.m. weather forecast. The studio was hot, the air conditioning was broken, and it had been 95 degrees all day. A typical, scorching Illinois summer. Tom stood in front of his weather map, pointing to the bright sun icons covering the entire state. Folks were looking at another hot one tomorrow. 97 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. Perfect weather for staying indoors with your air conditioning. Then Tom made an offhand comment that he thought was harmless, just another corny joke for his regular viewers. In fact, it's so hot that if Elvis Presley actually shows up to perform in Springfield in 2 weeks like they're saying, I predict it'll snow. That's right, folks. The king comes to town. We get snow in July. You can hold me to that. The camera crew laughed. His co-anchor laughed. Tom laughed at his own joke and continued with the rest of the forecast. It was just a throwaway line, a silly joke, nothing more. Except that night, at 11:47 p.m., something impossible happened. It started to snow in Springfield, Illinois, in July, with the temperature at 78 degrees. Tom Weatherly was asleep when his phone started ringing at midnight. It was his producer at the station, and she sounded panicked. Tom, you need to turn on the news, any channel. Just turn it on now. Tom stumbled to his living room and flipped on the TV. Every local channel was showing the same thing, live footage of snow falling in downtown Springfield. Actual snow, in July, in the middle of summer. Tom's first thought was that he was dreaming. His second thought was that this had to be some kind of hoax. But as he watched, he saw reporters standing in the streets catching snowflakes on their hands, showing thermometers that read 78 degrees. The phone started ringing again. His station manager, then his colleagues, then friends who'd seen his weather forecast earlier. Everyone was asking the same question. How did you know? But Tom hadn't known. He'd made a joke, a stupid, impossible joke. The snow continued for exactly 47 minutes. Then, it stopped as suddenly as it had started, leaving a thin white coating on the ground that melted within an hour. Meteorologists from across the country were baffled. The National Weather Service couldn't explain it. The conditions weren't right for snow. The temperature was too warm. There were no atmospheric anomalies that would cause precipitation, let alone frozen precipitation. It was, by every scientific measure, impossible. By morning, the story had gone national. Mysterious July snow in Illinois was the headline on every news outlet. And because Tom had made his joke about Elvis on live TV just hours before it happened, the story became, Weatherman predicts impossible snow before Elvis concert. Tom's phone didn't stop ringing for 3 days. News crews camped outside his house. He gave interview after interview, trying to explain that it was just a coincidence, just a joke. He had no idea how or why it had happened. But one phone call on the evening of July 15th changed everything. Tom's wife answered the phone. It's for you, she said, her face pale. He says his name is Elvis Presley. Tom thought it was a prank, but he took the phone anyway. Hello, is this Tom Weatherly, the weatherman who made it snow? The voice was unmistakable, that deep, slightly southern drawl, that distinctive way of speaking. It was Elvis. Mr. Presley, is this really? Call me Elvis, Tom. I wanted to talk to you about your forecast. Tom's hands were shaking. Sir, Elvis, I don't know what happened. It was just a joke. I never thought— I know it was a joke, Elvis interrupted gently. But Tom, I don't think the universe was joking. I think the universe was listening. For the next 45 minutes, Elvis and Tom talked on the phone like old friends. Elvis told Tom that he'd been watching the news coverage of the July snow, and something about it had moved him deeply. Tom, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've played thousands of shows, but I've never had the universe itself announce one of my concerts. Tom laughed nervously. I still don't understand how it happened. Maybe we're not supposed to understand, Elvis said. Maybe some things just happen because they're supposed to. My mama used to tell me that God pays attention to the small stuff, the jokes, the wishes, the prayers we don't think anyone hears. Maybe this was one of those times. Elvis's voice grew quieter, more serious. Tom, can I tell you something? I'm not doing well. I'm tired. I'm sick. I've been thinking about canceling this tour because I don't know if I have the strength to do it anymore. But when I heard about your snow, about your joke coming true, it felt like a sign. Like someone was telling me that this tour matters, that I need to show up. Tom felt tears forming in his eyes. He could hear the exhaustion in Elvis's voice, the vulnerability. These might be some of my last shows, Tom, Elvis continued. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this, but if the universe cared enough to send snow in July to announce my concert, then I'm damn sure going to be there. Tom didn't know what to say. He was just a small-town weatherman talking to the biggest star in the world, who was confiding in him like they were old friends. Tom, I want you to come to the concert as my personal guest, Elvis said, and I want you to come backstage. There's something I need you to see. 2 weeks later, on July 26th, 1977, Tom Weatherly sat in the front row of the Prairie Capital Convention Center in Springfield, watching Elvis perform. Elvis looked tired. His movements were slower than they used to be. His breathing was labored between songs. But there was something in his performance that night that was different from other concerts on that tour. There was intention, purpose. Like Elvis was pouring everything he had left into every note. Halfway through the show, Elvis stopped and addressed the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about something that happened a couple weeks ago. A weatherman in your town made a joke on TV. He said if I came to Springfield, it would snow in July. And you know what happened? The crowd roared. Everyone in Springfield knew the story. It snowed, Elvis continued, his voice full of emotion, in July, in the middle of summer. And I want to tell you what that meant to me. It meant that the universe is still paying attention, that miracles still happen, that sometimes the impossible becomes possible just because someone believes in it. Elvis pointed toward Tom in the front row. Tom Weatherly, would you come up here, please? Tom's heart stopped. Security guards helped him onto the stage, his legs shaking, barely able to process what was happening. Elvis put his arm around Tom's shoulders. Folks, this is the man who made it snow in July. And Tom, I want to thank you, because your joke, your prediction, your impossible forecast reminded me why I do this. It reminded me that music and magic are the same thing, that belief creates reality, that the universe listens to us more than we think. Elvis handed Tom a microphone. Tom, I want you to do your weather forecast, right now, right here. Tell these people what tomorrow's going to be like. Tom looked at Elvis, then at the crowd of 7,000 people, all watching him expectantly. He was a weatherman, not a performer, but Elvis was smiling at him with such warmth and encouragement that Tom couldn't refuse. Well, Tom stammered. Tomorrow in Springfield, we're looking at partly cloudy skies, high of 88 degrees, slight chance of afternoon thunderstorms. The crowd was laughing, but not at him. They were laughing with joy, with the absurdity and beauty of the moment. And, Tom added, feeling a sudden surge of confidence, 0% chance of snow, because the king already came to town, and the universe already gave us our miracle. The crowd erupted in applause. Elvis hugged Tom tightly and whispered in his ear, "Thank you for reminding me that magic is real." After the show, backstage in Elvis's dressing room, the two men talked for over an hour. Elvis was exhausted, barely able to stand, but he insisted on spending time with Tom. "You know what the craziest part is?" Elvis said, lying on the couch in his dressing room, still in his jumpsuit. "I've spent my whole career trying to create magic for people, the music, the performances, the shows. But you created real magic with just a joke. You made the impossible happen without even trying." Tom shook his head. "I didn't do anything. I just made a joke." "That's my point," Elvis said. "You believed in something impossible, even as a joke, and it happened. That's more powerful than anything I've ever done on stage. That's real magic. That's proof that the universe is listening to us, even when we think we're just talking to ourselves." Elvis reached into a bag beside the couch and pulled out a scarf, one of his signature white silk performance scarves. But this one was different. It had been embroidered with a date. July 12th, 1977, the day it snowed. "I had this made special," Elvis said, handing it to Tom. "I want you to have it, and I want you to remember that your voice matters, your words matter, even your jokes matter, because the universe is always listening." 21 days later, on August 16th, 1977, Elvis Presley died at Graceland. The Springfield concert on July 26th was not his final performance. He did a handful more shows after that, but it was one of his last, and by many accounts, one of his most meaningful. Tom Weatherly was devastated when he heard the news of Elvis's death, but he held on to that scarf, and he held on to the memory of their conversation for the rest of his life. Tom continued forecasting weather in Springfield for another 23 years before retiring in 2000, but he never forgot the night it snowed in July, and he never forgot what Elvis told him about the universe listening. Every year on July 12th, Tom would do a special weather segment remembering the impossible snow and his conversation with Elvis. He would tell the story to new generations of viewers, always ending with the same message: speak carefully, dream boldly. The universe might be listening. The scarf that Elvis gave him hung framed in Tom's office until his death in 2018. In his will, he donated it to the Prairie Capitol Convention Center, where it now hangs in a display case with a placard telling the full story of the weatherman's forecast and the July snow. Scientists never did explain what happened that night. The National Weather Service classified it as an unexplained atmospheric anomaly. Meteorologists wrote papers about it. Skeptics claimed it was a hoax, though hundreds of witnesses and multiple video recordings confirmed it happened. But for Tom Weatherly and the people of Springfield, the explanation didn't matter. What mattered was the magic, the impossibility made possible, the joke that became prophecy. And what mattered most was Elvis's message, that the universe pays attention to us more than we realize, that our words, our dreams, our beliefs have power, that sometimes miracles happen simply because someone, somewhere, believed in them. In 2007, on the 30th anniversary of the July snow, the city of Springfield erected a small monument in the town square. It shows a weather map with a single snowflake over the city, and beneath it, a quote from Elvis Presley: "The universe is listening. Speak carefully. Dream boldly." Tom's daughter, who became a meteorologist like her father, now works for the National Weather Service. She spent her career studying unexplained weather phenomena, hoping to find some scientific explanation for what happened that July night in 1977. But in her heart, she knows what her father knew. Some things can't be explained by science. Some things happen because they're meant to. Some things are just magic. "My father used to tell me," she said in an interview for the 40th anniversary documentary, "that the July snow wasn't about meteorology. It was about faith, about the power of belief, about the universe responding to our deepest hopes and fears and jokes and prayers." Elvis understood that. That's why he called my dad. That's why he invited him on stage, because they both understood that reality is more flexible than we think. The story of the weatherman's forecast and the impossible July snow has become part of Springfield's identity. It's taught in local schools. It's referenced in the town's promotional materials. It's a point of pride, a reminder that their small city was the site of a genuine miracle. But more than that, it's a reminder that Elvis Presley, in his final days, was still teaching people about the power of belief, about magic, about paying attention to signs from the universe. Tom Weatherly spent the last 40 years of his life telling people about his conversation with Elvis, and the message never changed. Elvis told me that the universe listens to everything we say. Our jokes, our prayers, our wishes, our predictions. We think we're just talking into the void, but something is always listening. And sometimes, if we believe hard enough, the impossible becomes real. Today, weathercasters across the country know the story of Tom Weatherly and the July snow. It's become a legend in the meteorology community, a reminder that for all our science and satellites and computer models, weather and life can still surprise us. The July snow remains unexplained. The magic remains unproven, but the impact remains undeniable. One joke, one impossible prediction, one night of July snow, one phone call from Elvis, and a lifetime of believing that miracles can happen when the universe decides to pay attention. Tom Weatherly's final weather forecast, recorded just days before his death in 2018, ended with these words: "Folks, I've been forecasting weather for over 50 years. I've predicted rain, sun, snow, storms. But the only prediction I ever got right that really mattered was the one I didn't mean to make, the one that brought Elvis to our town, the one that taught me the universe has a sense of humor and a heart. So tonight I'm predicting that miracles are still possible, that magic is still real, that the universe is still listening. You can hold me to that." And somehow we believe he's right. Because if it can snow in July, if Elvis Presley can call a small-town weatherman to thank him for believing in the impossible, then anything can happen. We just have to believe. If this incredible story of impossible miracles and the power of belief moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that the universe might be listening to them right now. Have you ever experienced something that science couldn't explain? Have you ever had an impossible prediction come true? Let us know in the comments, and hit that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the moments when reality becomes more magical than we ever imagined possible.